Shalom. Hi. Welcome to Torah Talk with Tamar. I'm Tamar, and today I want to talk about the biblical basis for breastfeeding, and specifically the Hebrew Bible. And of course, here in Torah Talk with Tamar, we specifically focus on the Torah as the foundation, so we'll dive into that first. Breastfeeding is becoming an increasing trend after nearly half a century of pushing women towards formula. Now, first I want to start out to say that this is not a video to shame, but rather to encourage. And as we are going towards a movement in the direction of breastfeeding, I don't believe it's by accident, because as we have more access to communication with each other as a society, more access to literacy, and more access to information, people are being able to make more informed decisions. And of course, along with that is the aspect of women having more empowerment and free societies to make decisions for themselves. Breastfeeding was the way of Hebraic culture for centuries and all throughout the Hebrew Bible. It was a matter of being blessed or baruched. And that very concept of being blessed was embedded in the Torah. That's where the concept came from. People love to use that word, I'm blessed, we're blessed, be blessed. But it really actually is a Torah-based word. And without understanding the Torah, you can't really understand what it is to be blessed. On a primitive level, a lot of people want to say that anything good that happens to you is being blessed, but sometimes it's just a matter of free will. There are a specific number of blessings that the Most High promised us if we would obey the Torah and walk in harmony with His will. And I will drop a link to a free resource in the comments. What is blessed? I have a research paper that I wrote a number of years back to dive more into that topic when it means blessed. But today I want to specifically talk about the blessing of the fruit of the body, or a blessing on the breast. In order to produce abundant milk, you have to be in harmony with the Creator. It's not only a physical process of eating right and being in an ideal health. It also has to do with being in line with the Creator's will. And the first place that we see that is in the Torah, in the book of Genesis. When Jacob is blessing his children, he tells them that one of the blessings that they will retrieve from the Most High is a blessing on the breast to produce breast milk. And that, of course, is backed by the dietary laws of the Torah. If you eat within the paradigm of the Torah, you will receive the benefits of the health that come from that. And when you are in good health, you will be able to produce milk. And I'm also saying this from experience. I have nursed 7 of my children, and I have done it specifically in a method called ecological breastfeeding, which I will make a video on. And in keeping with this theme of breastfeeding, I plan to make a number of videos that are semi-instructional, but also a forum for women to discuss breastfeeding together. But I'm speaking from a place of an experience. I was able to successfully breastfeed all 7 of my children for an average of 2.5 years. And actually, I'm still breastfeeding my 7th child. So I would like to impart that information and encouragement to other women as I am able to speak from a place of experience. But during this time that I have been breastfeeding, I have consistently followed the Torah. So I will be the first to say that it's not only human free will taking the proper steps that will go towards that blessing, but also obedience in keeping in line with the Torah. Throughout the Torah, there are several places that the fruit of the body is also told that we will receive a blessing upon if we live in harmony with the Creator. And when we live in obedience and in harmony with the Creator's will, we are able to harvest that spiritual energy, and it transforms our entire body. This is something that modern medical fields will not always acknowledge that our bodies are not simply manipulated by medicines. They also have a spiritual layer, and those two things work together. So I also want to talk about the flip side of that, the punishment of having dry breasts. So this might seem unfair, as if women who are not able to produce milk are somehow being chastised. But we have to go by the Creator's paradigm, not our own. And in many cases, being unable to breastfeed is simply a result of living outside of the Creator's will. And we see several places in the Hebrew Bible where the Creator decides that a punishment they will receive is not being able to breastfeed. But of course, this can also be from human evil or human lack of will to do breastfeeding. For example, in Lamentations, it says that even vultures offer their breast, but my people have become heartless like an ostrich in the desert. There were times in history where the people of Israel had women that were very calloused and very hard of heart, and they would not even make an effort to breastfeed their children. Collectively, as a community, there was also a responsibility for the people to take care of women. So even if women want to breastfeed, they need basic resources like housing, a relaxed environment, and nutrition. And then oftentimes those resources came from their elders, their husband, and other women in the community. Many times this requires resources other than resources that the woman alone can harness. And I can speak to that from a personal point of view as well, that throughout my time breastfeeding, it was resources available to me in the community and from my own late husband that allowed me to be in a position where I could even consider breastfeeding. In our culture, there's a big tendency to remove young children away from their mothers. And a lot of time there's financial pressure to do that. But this is really outside of the design and will of our Creator. All throughout the Hebrew Bible, it's clear that the Creator's intent is for women to be able to be with their young infants and to breastfeed them. And it takes the community and the men of Israel to create a structure in which women can thrive in that. So one of my favorite verses is in the Psalms, and it really demonstrates this concept that from the time that we are small infants, the Creator would will that we are blessed by breast milk. I believe it's an inherent right of every woman and child to breastfeed, and with proper education, knowledge, and living in harmony with the Creator, it's possible. In the Psalms, it's written that even from my mother's breast, you made me trust in you. So this verse is showing us, as an extension of the blessings in Torah, that divine design wills that we should be blessed even at our mother's breast when we are infants with breast milk. Science supports this. There are so many nutrients in breast milk that formula could never compare to. Formula is not a substitute for breast milk. That's scientifically illogical, and it's not even supported from a morally superior point of view when you look at what the moral paradigm is in the Hebrew Bible. There have even been children whose stomachs and bodies who have been damaged by formula. And I encourage every woman to look for resources to be able to breastfeed. And I encourage anybody who is around a woman who wants to breastfeed to really support her in this. And as an extension of that, look for videos that I'm going to be making in the near upcoming future about breastfeeding. I'm going to discuss what ecological breastfeeding is and how that aligns with a biblical lifestyle. And also, I plan to demonstrate how to successfully breastfeed, since I have been able to do this 7 times with my children. In continuation, though, going back to the Hebrew Bible, let's also talk about women being the ones who propelled breastfeeding. A common phrase repeated over and over in the Hebrew Bible and she weaned the child. Generally, children in Hebraic culture were nursed for long periods of time. In the book of Maccabees, which is considered apocrypha to some, but even if you don't look at it as divinely inspired, it demonstrates to you a factual historical story of the Jewish people. In that story, a mother lost 7 of her sons to an outside empire that came to attack the Jewish people. And she's telling her son to accept the death that will come upon him because he refuses to succumb to idolatry and instead continue to bravely worship the Creator, the one true almighty Creator. And she tells her son, I know you have pity at me, looking at me in this moment, and I nursed you for 3 years at my breasts. So she's telling him, I know you're aware that I did these things for you as your mother, but encouraging him to bravely take his fate because he refuses to worship idols. This is one verse that shows us the ecological breastfeeding process in Jewish culture. And it's not coincidence that the World Health Organization recommends that women breastfeed for an average of 2 years. It's been proven scientifically that this foundation for the first 2 years of a child's life gives them brain development that is super nutrition. It forms a child's brain in a way that gives them long-term and lasting mental strength and health throughout their life. In addition to that, we also see that Sarah and Abraham had a party for Isaac when he weaned. It was a big deal. And there's evidence from the text that he was about the age of a toddler when he weaned. This was the way of the Jewish and Hebraic culture in the Hebrew Bible and historically. And this relied upon women being able to be in a place where they could remain at home unbothered by the demands of a job that required them to physically separate from their child. Historically, many women were shepherdesses. They worked in textiles, and these kind of income generating tasks did not separate them from their children because they could weave baskets, they could weave wool, they could crush grains and flour, and they could just lay the child down or even put the child near them and still work with their hands as the child got a little bit older. You can't really do that with a newborn. They really need a lot of support. But the general idea is that the women could work in the textile industry, but also be able to breastfeed. And it's very difficult in our culture to replicate that process, although some women are increasingly being able to do that and find ways to generate income while also breastfeeding. Thank you for joining me today on another Torah Talk with Tamar. I encourage you to come back again, especially if you are a mother who's pregnant, nursing, or plan to nurse or get pregnant in the future. I want to share some of the things that I've gleaned over the years from a biblical Torah-based perspective, things I've learned about ecological breastfeeding, and how I have successfully been able to breastfeed 7 children over the last 17 years. Shalom.